It had been over a year since the knowledge of the existence of the secrets of the draconic ones had become his, but still a workable plan had not been forthcoming. He needed a distraction so large that they would have to answer the call, or an impending disaster that would force them to move their number from their home. But what would be able to cause such other than his own assault upon this place? Although Terraspine would be a good option, he had been unreachable since thuliseak imprisoned him beyond his capacity to reach him, even after all this time. The one that had been pushed into an unknown place in that confrontation would also have been a good option, as even Terraspine had been able to defeat them. But they too were beyond reach, beyond sending. Whatever had been done to them, and wherever they were lost to his senses. Zul, perhaps, he mused, but then shook his head slowly, as he knew all too well that his pawn of testing the waters of daemonhood to divinity was a mere drop of the power needed to cause such a distraction. No, he needed something truly threatening to this prime, but so far he had been unable to reason any such thing into a workable possibility, especially as a demonic entity had little chance of even breaching the astral that would repel them, and his avenue of passing was a possibility to so few of them. As he searched his knowledge of all that he had absorbed, the vast vessels of demons and those he had taken for millennia, he was drawn to consider that perhaps the denizens of this prime might hold the key. Those he had taken knew much of the history of this prime, and the Shinites also held vast stores of such, but politics and squabbling with simple confrontations and mortal wars were not the answer he sought. He needed more, much more. Eventually, it dawned on him that, perhaps, he needed to gain direct knowledge from one of the greater denizens, one of draconic nature. Yes, this would surely hold the key to what he sought, as with one of their own he may even be able to infiltrate them directly. If not, he could use such to lure them out, and perhaps weaken them enough to allow him to remove them from his path. Yes, this would do, and his collection of planar travellers would be able to convince one, or maybe two, to meet with them, and there he would ensure they never left. Well, not as themselves. The only real difficulty was amassing enough power here to enable him to ensnare them, although he could easily do it if he could mount a tether. It was a risky business, though, as a tether would attract all manner of creatures to check what it was, and to ensure it was safe. But that was something he no longer needed to be concerned with. He had two ways to keep those who may investigate at bay, and both would have very plausible reasons, as well as the skills and powers to back up their actions. Those of the Sharnite priesthood, and his taken expert on planar matters, the planar walkers. Yes, this was a way forward, and quite possibly the only way he was getting enough of a power base to make the push for the Citadel possible. The only thing he had to do was not alert chrylsis to his plans, but as long as he did not meddle directly with the astral, he was sure he would be unable to stop him, at least directly. And should he attempt such, by the time he realized something was wrong, it would be far too late. And so, at the place where he had first breached into this prime, where he had left his faint touch upon the threads that reached out beyond this prime, he set about creating a channel, a beacon to draw his power, slowly, although he had to wait until the denizens had satiated their curiosities beforehand. The planar walkers constructed it from their own knowledge, and ensured it was imbued accordingly, and then the Sharnites were invited to see their new experiment. It was explained to be a locating beacon, to allow them to be able to locate the origins of magic not native to their own prime, so that they could learn more about such, and if needed, return such to its origin should it be necessary. Of course, they agreed this was a great venture, that would surely aid lost beings upon their prime who needed a guiding light. Naturally, the first magic used was something they knew of, to prove that it worked, of a magic not present upon their prime. It was that of one who could manipulate ores and minerals, crafted or raw. The magic was within an object of seeming liquid that was solid to the touch, and could be fashioned using the will of the bearer into other objects, be they bowl or knife, sword or shovel. The one who possessed this ability was from a specific prime, and the beacon did in fact show them this, and gave them a thread to follow to them, should they need to traverse the plains to that prime. The beacon was a success. However, they did not spread the word, instead keeping this knowledge secret, as they had been ordered to by their superiors and the planar walkers. They did, however, say they would discern locations to erect further such beacons if needed, that could also be kept secret, including the very heart of the Temple of Shan. This could prove to be useful later, once all other parts have been settled, he noted, and smiled inwardly, as now he had a way to begin exerting his machinations upon this prime, and once he had a single one of those draconic ones, it would all fall into place. And with their answers and secrecy ensured, he set about fashioning the tether in full. His power began flowing slowly, and the fate of this prime began to assuredly be his to decide. At least that was his plan. Others, however, had their own ideas. There was also an added benefit he had not considered, and this was that of the will of some of the Shanites to push such knowledge to others of their kind on other primes, and this would, in time, prove to be immeasurably beneficial to him. The beacons they eventually erected upon the other primes were built as the first had been, and then imbued by priests under his sway. In short, they willingly spread beacons that, when directed to him, would grant an opening, a pinprick in their realities through which a tether could form and eventually grant his magics access to those places. They were seeding the destruction of the primes, and he had not even asked them to do so. A Shan's will be done.